Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Chtib and Zhang show. I'm Chtib, that is Zhang. We have quite the episode for you guys today, jam-packed episode. We will be reviewing UFC 260. We'll be
Yeah.
looking at the NBA trade deadline in our reactions. We'll be talking Eric Stahl and, of course, the NHL trade deadline looming. But first, roll it! Welcome back to the Chtib and Zhang show. I think it is episode 13 or 14,
Yeah.
not quite sure. We're not followed up. Eric, how have you been this past week? The one since the last
Been
episode.
good. Been good.
Yeah,
I know you don't
busy.
want to talk about it, but I beat you in fantasy, so it's a good week for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Whatever. I lost in fantasy this week. Eric most likely crushed my playoff hopes. Quite the friend and cast or co-host.
Yeah.
Someone who
I got
crushes
you.
your fantasy aspirations into the playoffs. Whatever though, it's cool. Moving on though, Eric, let's jump right into the episode where we'll be talking about UFC 260, where
Uh,
Stipe Miocic got KO'd by
yeah.
Francis Ngannou in the second round. Eric, I think you predicted this.
Yeah.
A lot of people predicted it,
Yeah.
that Francis Ngannou and his dangerous strikes were the reason he won the fight.
Yeah. Very entertaining fight, first of all. But Francis Ngannou, that guy is a beast, man. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
he's gonna be a heavyweight champion for a while. And John Jones was there. He's like, oh, Bro, John
Hmm.
Jones is not doing anything to Francis Ngannou. Like, come on. Like, realistically, you saw John Jones fight. There's no way he's beating Francis Ngannou, man. Come on.
Yeah, Ngannou has 12 wins by KO. He has 4 wins via submission and 11 first round finishes.
Yeah.
You mentioned John Jones. People are saying that John Jones and Ngannou will be the next fight.
Mhm.
Ngannou, that will be his first title defense. Who do you like in that fight? Obviously, you like Ngannou over
100%,
John
hundred
Jones, but
percent.
why?
Jones, it's just, bro. Obviously, first of all, Jones is a light heavyweight. He walks around 220, 225. I'd say like that's his preferred weight, and
Hmm.
he's probably gonna fight at like 230, 240 if I was to guess. But Ngannou's just like he probably walks around at 270, like Ngannou's
Yeah.
big. He's a big heavyweight, and like I don't and like John Jones, like he's just not the same as he used to be. We saw the fight. He almost lost to Dominic Reyes. Like he like Francis Ngannou,
Yeah.
he lands one punch,
Oh, yeah.
Jones is going to sleep.
Do you find it disrespectful that Stipe Miocic is being discredited of a third fight already so soon?
No, it's because a lot of people knew. Because the thing with Stipe is he's the best heavyweight champion of all time, but you gotta think, like it's not that hard to be the best heavyweight champion of all time because there's not that many great ones. Like all you have to
Okay.
do is like defend it like 4 or 5 times, like 4 times, and you're the best, you know. But Stipe, great champion, very humble person, and Stipe doesn't talk a lot, so he just stays humble, stays quiet, like. But it's just because it was such a dominant victory for Ngannou, and like people don't see a way how Stipe can like. Is there after watching the fight, no one sees like there's no
Not
chance that
really. Some
Stipe can
people
win
are
again.
saying that the first time was a fluke. That
Hmm.
Francis Ngannou quickly figure out Stipe. Obviously, Stipe, the first time he won, dragged it in later rounds, tired
Hmm.
Ngannou out, and beat him. But then in the second fight, Ngannou had better much defense
Yeah,
when it
for
came
sure.
to getting to the ground. Stipe tried to do that. He pushed him away, and he kept
Exactly.
him fist to cuffs. And then yeah, he just went pound to pound,
Even
right, and knocked
Ngannou
him out.
and Ngannou took Stipe down like kind
Yeah.
of a bit there, so it was very impressive. I'm not gonna lie.
Um, Obviously John Jones, smart fighter.
Mhm.
Um, his careers could be, you know, envisioned or analyzed in his fighting style that he wins in unexpected ways. He
Mhm.
finds unexpected ways to beat his opponents. Obviously, against Francis Ngannou, he can't go pound to pound,
Mhm.
basically, because he will lose. He's not strong enough or as strong as Francis Ngannou.
Exactly.
Should John Jones consider maybe um, playing or fighting in a heavyweight fight before John Jones, maybe to get some reps in or something to fight, someone near Francis Ngannou's weight before he goes
Ooh.
into it? Is John Jones that type of person, or will
No,
he
he
just
would
go straight
no,
into?
he's there for the money. He wants the money fight. There's no point of fighting some. He's just there to get the money, the big bag. It's gonna be a super fight. Everyone's excited for this fight. It's one of those fight like people are gonna just they just want to see this fight. It's like
Yeah.
on paper, it's a crazy fight, and no one knows. Like realistically, I'm saying Ngannou's gonna win, but a lot of people, I don't know what the the odds are gonna be, but and a lot of people have Ngannou winning. So I don't, to be honest, I don't know what the odds are gonna say.
And there was someone else, no, that could go for the title round 2 against Ngannou. It was Lewis.
Oh, Derek Lewis,
Derek Lewis, yeah.
but
Dana
Derek,
White after the post game was
yeah,
saying that, any of those guys can get the fight if they wanted
because
to. If
if
John
you think
Jones
about
wants to,
it,
Derek
Derek
Lewis.
Lewis beat Francis Ngannou right after Stipe, and people consider that one of the worst fights in UFC history, by the way, because
Oh yeah.
it's literally just two guys trying to counter strike. So they weren't moving, and because Derek Lewis is a counter striker, so like it's not that interesting of a fight. Like in Derek Lewis, the way he wins is he just like knocks out people with like a lucky, like not a lucky punch, but because he has power. So if he hits you, and his fights, no one knows where they're gonna go. And he got an upset like a month or two ago against Curtis Blades, which is the reason why he's up here for a title shot. So
Yeah, who would have the best chances against Ngannou in the ring, in the
realistically,
octagon?
John Jones over
Realistically,
Derek
John
Lewis. Yeah,
Jones.
John Jones. To be honest, I'd put him in my top 3 best UFC fighters all time. A lot of people have him considered the GOAT, but if you want to be the GOAT, you it's about fighting, but it's also about like your aura and the way you
Yeah.
perceive yourself. Like a lot of people have George St. Pierre, Khabib, because
Mm-hmm.
they're like humble fighters. Like people like them, and like John Jones is just all over the place, and he talks a lot, and like all those drug problems, so USADA and everything. So it's tough to have John Jones as the GOAT. You know.
Okay. Well, obviously, this is Africa's third
Mm-hmm.
champion. I don't know if it is a heavyweight. No, different divisions,
No,
right?
technically, yeah. It's so there's Kamaru, Israel,
Yeah,
and Francis now.
but they're not on. Are they all in heavyweight?
No.
Oh, no, different division.
Israel
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
one. Remember we talked about
yeah,
him?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He went up to light heavyweight, and then Kamaru's in
Mm-hmm. So
170 pounder.
it's a good day for Africa then, getting their
Yeah.
third champion in the UFC fights. Eric, let's move from you. Well, actually, what's next? What's next? UFC 261.
261. Yeah.
Who's highlighting that card?
Oh, it's Kamaru Usman. So one of the African
Yeah,
champions right now. Kamaru Usman against Jorge. You know Jorge Masvidal.
no clue what you
The
just
guy,
said.
you know the guy with the long hair that need Ben Askren in the face.
Oh, I didn't see that video. Ben Askren getting is that the one Jake Paul keeps replaying
Yeah,
of him getting knocked
exactly.
out? Yeah, I didn't see
It's,
that.
so the thing with that fight is people are excited, but not really, because Jorge Masvidal, he fought his last fight was against Kamaru, and he got destroyed. It was a 50 43, like absolutely
Mhm.
destroyed, and it wasn't an entertaining fight, and people didn't really want to watch the fight again. But Masvidal's a pretty big name, so there's gonna have because it broke a lot of records. Well, like for welterweight, like it did a lot of pay-per-view buys, so I think they want to run it back again. That's why.
Okay, obviously not as much as hype probably as this Francis Ngannou UFC
Exactly, yeah.
260 fight, but we'll just have to be looking forward to UFC 261 as we move on, Eric, from the UFC to the NBA, where the
Yeah.
trade deadline passed March 25th, and we saw the most transactions and players traded in NBA history this trade
Really?
deadline. I'm
I know
pretty sure
oh, it's
that's
a
what it
record. I
was,
didn't know that.
or
Okay.
maybe since a while. I don't know the
Yeah,
exact
for a
date, but
while
it's
for
been
sure.
been for a while. Um, as players got traded, players we expected to get traded from last week's episode that we said, some players that got traded that we weren't even talking about. But let's start off with my reactions of the NBA trade deadline. I have a few players here we could just talk about. You can add on
Okay.
from the free agency market, maybe players that got bought out, or basically your
Mhm.
thoughts. First off, on my list, my opinion with Kyle Lowry. I
Mhm.
think Kyle Lowry should have been traded at the trade
Okay.
deadline.
Okay.
What do you
Fair.
think?
I think that's a fair assessment to make, because Kyle Lowry, he doesn't fit into any of the timeline of the Raptors. If they're saying they're rebuilding, or they're like, Kyle Lowry doesn't really fit. His contract is up.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know if he sold his house. People think he's leaving.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they traded Terrence Davis and Matt Thomas, and they got
Yeah.
second rounders out of it. And people were
Yeah.
expecting them to use those trades to trade
Yes.
Kyle Lowry too, but nothing happened. So they basically traded Terrence Davis and Matt Thomas, who are really good,
Yeah.
pretty young players, for basically nothing.
this just isn't. I don't kind of get this move by the Toronto Raptors. I guess
Yeah.
it's more of a kind of their franchise icon. They
Mm-hmm.
wanted to keep him in Toronto, but really from a business standpoint, Kyle Lowry should have been realistically traded at the
Mm-hmm.
deadline.
Mm-hmm.
There were offers from Miami, maybe for Duncan Robinson that
Yeah,
Toronto
but
Raptor fans could have liked.
mm-hmm.
But basically, Kyle Lowry has 1 year left on his contract. He will be a free agent at the end of the season,
Yeah.
and most likely will be leaving the Toronto Raptors. Right,
Mm-hmm.
Lowry is aging, and the Toronto Raptors seem to be transitioning into a rebuild status
Mm-hmm.
right now. So I don't get this trade or this non-trade by the Toronto Raptors. They traded Norm
Fair.
Powell, one of
Yeah.
their top scorers. So I don't understand what they're trying to do right now. I
Yeah.
guess it's just to give Toronto Raptors a last glimpse of Kyle Lowry before he leaves.
Maybe.
But
Or maybe they just weren't able to figure out a trade,
maybe
which
his
is
asking
probably
price was
yeah.
too high.
Yeah.
As the Heat and the Lakers were front runners. Philly was
Mm-hmm.
also in there too, but I guess the asking price for Kyle Lowry was too
Mm-hmm.
high. Though Toronto should have pulled the trigger.
But I
Besides,
was
you already
talking,
said,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I was talking to Raptors fans, and all they said was, "Oh, in Messiah we trust." So they trust
Masai could be
Messiah.
gone. This also
Yeah,
as well as president of basketball operations. Um,
yeah,
Listen, the future doesn't look well. It looks bright for the Toronto Raptors. They got Gary Trent
yeah.
Jr.,
Gary Trent.
young player from the Portland Trailblazers, but
Yeah.
the Raptors' future looks like it could be headed into a rebuild, and Kyle
Mm-hmm.
Lowry will be gone. So Raptors fans, maybe you like that he stayed. Some Raptors fans wish he'd
Yeah.
gone. Time will tell what will happen. But let's move on to another player that I enjoy watching in the playoffs. Playoff Rondo,
Yeah.
of course.
Okay.
Rajon Rondo from the Atlanta Hawks was traded to the was it Clippers
Mm-hmm.
for Lou Williams.
Yeah.
I'll go with this trade. I'll start. I like this trade a lot. Um,
Okay.
Playoff Rondo. Well, Rondo's having career lows basically in every category. Playing with the Hawks, averaging around 50 minutes per game. But I think the Clippers are trading him for that playoff Rondo, the same guy who
Exactly.
last year averaged 9 points and 7 assists during the Lakers'
Mm-hmm.
playoff run. The
Yeah.
same Rondo that LeBron trusted on
Yeah.
the court with the ball, something you don't see much. And now he's going to be looking to go to I don't know, not disappointing Clippers team, but a Clippers team that has been
Yeah. A little
disappointing in
underwhelming
the
for sure.
season,
Mm-hmm.
underwhelming. And he's going to look to kind of bring that leadership and that experience and kind of change things around right now going into the playoffs. As Lou Williams, who has been with LA for what 7 years now, something like that. It seems like
I don't
a
know about
long time. The
7 years, like
Clippers
5 years. Yeah.
was actually
Couple years.
contemplating retirement when he got traded to the Hawks. He felt
Yeah.
disrespected, kind of like in a DeMar DeRozan sort of
Fair.
way.
Yeah.
What do you think of that trade of Rondo for
Because
Lou?
I love Rondo. Rondo, he's a great vet. He has 2 rings. He's a great person. Like his knowledge of the game is
Oh yeah,
ridiculous, and he fits perfectly with that team. Playoff Rondo too always pulls up against the Pelican when he was with the Pelicans in the playoffs with AD. Like he always pulls up in the playoffs. He's a great two-way player.
yeah,
And also the thing with Clippers, what they were missing was just a ball handler. They didn't have a traditional point guard because who you gonna put? Like you're gonna have Patrick Beverly bringing up the ball. Like you just need someone to bring up the ball,
yeah,
dish it to Kawhi, dish it to Paul George, and just get everything
yeah.
going on. And Lou Williams is a great player, but he just he when I think about Clippers, I do think about Lou Williams. So it is kind of sad to just see him get traded for like Ron. Like Lou Williams,
Yeah,
like he was averaging like basically like 20 points last. Like
yeah.
so it's tough to see. But
It's
Lou Williams
tough
is a
to
great
see.
player. Yeah.
Yeah, tough to see for Lou Williams, who was a cornerstone for that Clippers team.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to move on here to the Denver Nuggets. Two trades that I really liked from the Denver Nuggets that involved Aaron Gordon and JaVale McGee. Obviously, Aaron Gordon, Orlando Magic. Um, Great player for them, but now he's going to the Denver Nuggets to try and win a championship. He's having a career year right now, 37.5% from threes. And he's averaging 15 points per game. Not sure that's a career highlighted stat, but he's also a great defender.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the Denver Nuggets in the West right now, Eric, the West seems pretty
Mm-hmm.
open right now with
Yeah.
the Clippers, as we talk, underperforming, the injury bug hitting the Lakers,
Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
the Suns, and the Jazz, who haven't been tested yet in the playoffs.
Okay.
There could be some leeway here for the Denver Nuggets
For sure.
as
Yeah.
they have a third option now behind Jokic and Jamal Murray.
Mhm.
A guy, something that they actually been needing and missing because they've been relying on those two guys. Now they actually get a guy who can put up some points and who can
Mhm.
maybe a guy who could defend someone like a LeBron or a
Fair.
Kawhi or a Paul
Yeah.
George, right? Wouldn't you
For
agree?
sure. For sure. For sure. Aaron Gordon's on Orlando, very underrated player.
Yeah.
He doesn't put up the numbers, but he's very athletic, very good defender. He's very strong, so he can basically guard Paul George Choir. But I don't know if they're gonna put him on him, but because they had Jeremy Grant last year, who's
Yeah.
a very good defender for them, and they lost him, so then they
Hmm.
got Aaron Gordon. So
Yeah.
maybe that might be a replacement. And also they lost Mason Plumlee from last year,
Hmm.
so now they got JaVale McGee, who can be a good backup center to
To add
Jokic, which
size
fits.
on
Yeah,
Jokic, yeah,
for
and
sure.
I forget the coach's name of the Denver Nuggets,
Oh,
but
Mike Malone. Yeah.
yeah, Mike Malone. That's something he utilized during his run with
Mhm.
Mason Plumlee, Jokic, was to have two big bodies on the floor at all times.
Mhm.
But just yeah, two really good trades from the Denver Nuggets. Will be looking to surprise teams in the West, though Denver is very much there in the West.
Exactly.
There can be again some leeway right now with a lot of teams
Mhm.
underperforming or being injured right now. So look for the Denver Nuggets. They could be a sneaky dark horse. Let's move to the Miami Heat, where they
Mhm.
missed out on Kyle Lowry. What did they do? They went to the Houston
Yeah.
Rockets and picked up Victor
Victor
Oladipo,
Oladipo. Yeah.
who will now be a supporting cast member behind Jimmy Butler, Bam
Bam.
Adebayo, and Tyler Hero. And obviously, the Miami Heat in the East got to compete versus the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets, we'll get to them, but they added some
Yeah.
key players. Now they
Yeah.
look like a legit all-star team.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, so the Heat have to compete. They add Victor Oladipo. Obviously, Eric, not the same Victor Oladipo from Indiana, but still
Yeah.
a reliable player.
For sure. Um, Victor Oladipo, literally like 2 years ago, he was an upcoming star, made the All Star
Hmm.
game. People had a lot of thought he was going to be the face of Indiana. Indiana
Yeah.
loved him. He was good in the playoffs and everything. And then he got injured. He didn't play well, and then he got traded. And then now, and the thing is, I was talking with Gabe told me that he was talking with a Houston fan, and the Houston
Hmm.
fan told him that Victor Oladipo, every time that he watched him play, like Victor Oladipo was underwhelming.
Yeah.
He just looks like he wasn't there. Like he didn't want to play really. He was just putting up numbers and he wasn't putting the effort. But now with the Heat, I think the Indiana Oladipo is coming back to play.
Oh, yeah. That would be very interesting if he can return to his Indiana
100%.
state. Then that would really push Miami over the edge as a real threat to win the East. So we'll just have to look for that. Look for that seriously coming down to the playoffs where the Heat,
Mm.
who knows who they're gonna have to play. But look for that as we moved to the Boston Celtics. Eric, kind of
Ooh,
a as a Orlando Magic fan, kind of a disappointing trade from the Orlando Magic
fair, yeah.
standpoint. Evan Fournier was traded to the Boston Celtics for 2 second-round picks and Jeff Teague, of a shooting guard who's shooting
Yeah,
38% on threes, averaging
yeah,
20 points,
yeah.
basically, is instantly one of the best players on the Celtics, one of their top 5 players. But the
Mm.
Orlando Magic, just an underwhelming, in my opinion,
Yeah,
underwhelming
for
trade
sure.
package received. No, two
For
second
sure.
round pick, not even a first round
Exact.
pick.
No first rounders. Evan Fournier, basically 20. Like
Yeah,
he's always close to 20 points. He's a great leader. He's okay defender, and like
and
he's just a
he
great.
has been disappointing in the playoffs. That's
Yeah,
for
for sure.
sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But still, 2 second rounders,
Yeah,
kind of a steal in my opinion for
for
the
sure.
Danny Ainge and the Boston Celtics, who usually doesn't pull the trigger on trade deadline day.
Hmm.
But just an underrated move by Danny Ainge,
Yeah,
who
for sure.
sends two
I'm
second round
excited to
picks,
see
man.
Evan Fournier on another team. It was very weird to see him on another jersey. Like I saw the
Yeah.
Photoshop like in green.
Oh
It's
yeah,
really
yeah.
weird. I'm always used to seeing him in blue.
Well,
So.
they lose Al Horford. They lose Gordon Hayward basically for nothing. Their bench is kind of slim with
Hmm.
young players, but
Exactly.
untested young players.
Yeah.
So now they add Evan Fournier to try and get to that same level of the Heat and the Nets. Doesn't
Hmm.
really put them there, but still makes them very competitive in the
For
East
sure.
alongside Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. So we'll look for the Boston Celtics to try and do something. But as we look now, we go west to the Portland Trailblazers, where Dame and CJ McCollum pick up some needed help in Norman
For
Powell from the
sure.
Toronto Raptors. Eric,
Yeah.
Norman Powell was very high on our trade bait
Yeah.
list. We really did think Norman Powell was going to be on his way out of Toronto, and
Mhm.
now he is. He's shooting 44% from threes. That's a career stat for him. And yeah, he's now the third option in
Yeah.
Portland.
Well, that to be honest, Gary Trent is very good, but
Yeah.
Norm Powell is definitely an upgrade. This guy is basically averaging 20 points. Even in the playoffs, he plays really well too,
Mm-hmm.
and especially off the bench, he's gonna be a great player for them. When because CJ usually tends to get injured, like he's
Yeah.
been injured a lot. So even though he's not injured, like Norman Powell is gonna be a great bench player, a good third option for them. So I'm excited
Mm-hmm.
to see Norman Powell on a different team.
Yeah, did you see that where you tried to line up with the Raptors? Oh, whoops.
Oh,
Sorry, did you
when
hear me?
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, when he lined up on the Raptors side, did you see that?
Oh yeah,
He
when they
forgot he
played,
forgot
I
he
didn't
was
see.
playing for the
No,
Toronto
oh my
Raptors. He
god.
actually lined up on their side mistakenly.
No, that's
So yeah,
funny.
Norm playoff Pete going to Portland, try and help
Mm.
Dame and CJ win a championship in Portland in the West. Tough matchup, so they really needed a guy like Norm. So look for that. As we go to Chicago, Eric, for some reason,
Oh
the
yeah,
Chicago Bulls seem to be all in for a playoff spot at the
yeah,
least, as they traded 2 first-round picks, Otto Porter Jr. and Wendell Carter, to the you know who, Orlando Magic, for Nikola Vucevic, Eric, one
yeah,
of the best scoring centers in the
yeah.
league.
That's fair
And
to say.
now he will be with Zach LaVine, the cornerstones of this Bulls team, to try and push for a playoff spot.
Mm. Yeah, I'll
Eric,
be
what do you like
honest.
of that?
I was so surprised when I saw that because I
Me too.
thought Bulls were trying to rebuild here. I thought they were
Yeah.
rebuilding. They had a lot. They still have a lot of young players. I
Hmm.
thought they were rebuilding. They're gonna build their team around Zach LaVine, Larry Markkinen. But I guess they're going for a playoff run here.
Yeah.
They got Vucevic. I'm kind of sad they lost Wendell because Wendell is very
Yeah.
underrated player, very young underrated player for them. So and they gave a two, but that's what Vucevic is worth, to be honest. He's
Yeah.
realistically a top four, top five center in the league. I probably had it on
Yeah.
four, to be honest.
It's his
Uh,
defense really that's his
exactly.
liability, so,
His
but he's
defense.
a great scoring center right now.
Mhm.
Um,
But
yeah.
like in the East, the only centers you really have to watch out. Well, actually, yeah, you have Embiid, you have Adebayo. So yeah, but he'll hold his own.
Do
He
the
was in
Bulls
the
make the
East.
playoffs? I don't even know where they
I
are.
I, I think they're
Chicago.
making the playoffs. They're on the edge right now. They're close to
They're
500, but
close. I know they're close.
yeah, I believe they're gonna make the playoffs with this trade. 100%, I think they're gonna make the playoffs. Because
The
come on,
Chicago
Vucevic.
Bulls are 19 and 25. They sit 10th in the East. The eighth seeded team is the Miami Heat, actually, who's at 22 and
Yeah,
24. Bulls are 2 games behind a playoff spot. And
yeah, I think
now
they're gonna
I
make
don't
it.
know. Very interesting by the Chicago Bulls because now Boston, the Heat, they've gone better. Uh,
Yeah.
and now the Bulls, they got to battle from down 2 games. They got to battle the Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, basically on the 11th seeds, the Toronto Raptors. I
Mm-hmm.
would say, did you
I
hear
don't
me
think
again?
Rap.
Siri keeps popping up.
No, it's fine. You're all good. It keeps going. But
Okay.
the Raptors, I
Yeah, where would you
realistically,
put it? The threshold. Would you put it from the Toronto Raptors? All the teams below them are out of the. Well, yeah,
basically,
basically.
and I
But
also honestly believe Raptors are not making the playoffs
yeah,
either.
I don't think Raptors are gonna make the playoffs either. So Raptors, Cleveland, we can pretty much count out
Yeah,
of
for
the
sure.
playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's basically Chicago, Indiana, Miami, Boston, those teams right now.
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta too, Charlotte, they're all very close. The
Mm-hmm.
Knicks are very close, and then Milwaukee,
Yeah, the guaranteed teams. Yeah, for sure.
guaranteed teams. So still very much open room here in the East. The Bulls will really have to kind of go on a winning streak here if they wish
Yeah,
to push for a playoff spot. But
but
ballsy move by Chicago
for sure.
to trade 2 first-round picks. A team that
Mhm.
was seen as a rebuilding team
Exactly. Yeah.
now is looking to push for the playoffs. Should be exciting for Bulls fan
Mm-hmm.
and exciting for general NBA fans, Eric. As that's basically everyone the trades I had on my list. But we of course have other free agent bought out players. LaMarcus Aldridge signing
Mm-hmm.
with the Nets.
Yeah.
Um, Andre Drummond likely signing with the Los Angeles Lakers. What do you like about those two signings, Aldridge and Drummond?
So yeah, basically the two best teams in the league. They're just adding some
Yeah.
big men here. LaMarcus Aldridge, don't forget this guy. 2 years ago he was an
Oh
All
yeah.
Star, so, and he's still very good. He's probably like power forward wise, like in our generation, he's one of the best
Yeah.
power forwards in our generation. Uh, Andre Drummond on the other side, very good, probably the best rebounder. Like not right
Oh
now, but a couple years. Like this guy gets
yeah.
so many rebounds, gets every rebound. This guy gets steals, blocks, kind of. Uh, he'll get the buckets. Very good player, and he
But
doesn't
he's
need the
also
ball that much.
playing on the Lakers. So
Yeah,
not going to be asked to do much, really. He's on a star-studded team already with LeBron James and Anthony
Anthony
Davis.
Davis, yeah.
But these Nets, man, they signed LaMarcus Aldridge. They're
Yeah.
basically building a team to beat LeBron. Stephen A.
100%. Yeah.
Smith
Yeah.
wasn't pleased about it either. A lot of
Yeah.
people are saying, when is this going to stop?
Yeah.
They are building a team to beat LeBron, Eric. On paper, that team versus a healthy Lakers squad, who's taking it?
I don't know. I still need time to figure this out. I remember when the James Harden trade happened. I was like, I still need time. Now you need even more
You need
time to
more
figure it out.
time.
Yeah,
Blake
because
Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge, now in the Nets. They get two big men that they need. Basically, that's the only game they need. They have that. They're basically perfect in every position. But of course, the Lakers have LeBron and AD. So
but I just don't like the fact that they're basically getting these players for free. And you're over here, and as a Jazz fan, the Jazz we struggled to we gotta trade 10 first-round picks to get Mike Conley.
That's what I hate about the NBA. I hate this about the NBA. Is now in the NBA you need two superstars to win an NBA championship. That boggles my mind because you know how many teams that cancels out immediately from contention. Basically, 90% of teams are out of contention now because they don't have two superstars to compete in the playoffs and win them a championship. And now the New York Nets are basically reinforcing that idea. Now you're going to see down the future, maybe teams are just going to be picking up all-stars from free agency and getting bought out and just, come play with us. We have these superstars already. Let's go beat LeBron and win a chip. Okay.
Exactly.
God, that's bad for the sport. That is bad for the sport, in my opinion.
No, but this all started from basically ring chasing. So the media put a lot of pressure on. You have to win a ring, or not your career basically means nothing. But that's not how it is. But you have to win a ring. So all these players, they're literally trying to chase for a ring. That's what Dwight Howard did. That's what Drummond's doing now. LaMarcus,
KD,
So
it's disappointing to see.
But
for
the league is very competitive, though. The East is
those 8 teams that have those two superstars or whatever. You try, my point. A lot of teams get canceled out. So many teams just get canceled out from contention. Like the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets are a great team, Bill, but could they just simply lose to the Los Angeles Lakers because LeBron and AD are just on the floor? You know what I mean?
Fair, but that's basketball too. It's
I know,
5. You're playing 5 players at a time, so that's why you can do
basketball. You don't see that a lot in the even in the NFL. It's hard to do. Teams try and push for stars. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The NHL, because of a hard cap, it's impossible to do it. And so maybe, does the NBA adopt a hard cap salary? Who knows? That would definitely fix it. But some people don't seem to like that idea. And just richer teams basically pay the luxury tax when they sign a big player.
Exactly.
So basically, is it a Brooklyn versus Los Angeles finals? We'll just have to wait and see the two Jazz, bro. Jazz aren't gonna win anything, Eric. Let's be honest. So it's gonna be interesting for the NBA now down the stretch as the playoffs loom. What teams are a dark horse? What teams will make it? What teams will break in the playoffs? We'll just have to see when the playoffs start. As now we move from the NBA, Eric, to the NHL, where the Montreal Canadiens acquired center Eric Staal from the Buffalo Sabres. Not acquired, Eric. Let me reiterate. They saved Eric Staal from Buffalo. They literally saved him for a 2020 1/3 and 5th round pick. Buffalo also retains 50% of Stahl's salary, which is $1.625 million out of a $3.25 million contract. Eric, I don't know what to say about this trade. Really, I like this trade. Right, I like the move. Staal, having Eric Staal on your 4th line looks great. What scares me the most is I think Bergevin made this trade and is using it as a mirage/illusion to Montreal fans when he's not going to make a trade for a D-man. I think it's going to be like that excuse. So when you have Xavier Ouellet or Victor Mete starting, rotating basically the end of the regular season, does Bergevin think that Habs fans won't question that. Hey, listen, we needed a top four defenseman. No, actually,
Yeah.
because we have Eric Stahl to look at, all pretty, and Eric Stahl, we got
Yeah.
Eric Stahl. Does this fill a need? Sure. Center was a secondary
Yeah.
need in my opinion, right?
But
When
secondary only. Yeah.
Suzuki or Jesperi Kotkaniemi are having an off game, they're losing faceoffs, they're not playing too well defensively. Sure, can Eric Stahl, take that pressure off of them, take that load off of them? Yes, for sure. It's great. We needed a center, but it was a secondary need. What our primary need right now is still a top four defenseman. Montreal lacks that. I'm telling you, you cannot play Victor Mente and Xavier Ouellet, just rotating them in and out. Neither of them can play right now. They're not looking too great out there on the ice in their own zone. So I don't know. I like
But
this trade, but I think Bergevin is just he has no flexibility. I don't know if he's done or not, but it seems like it.
fair. That's some good points. But if you look about it, if you look at it, it's a third rounder and a fifth rounder. Like,
Yeah.
it's not really a big deal. You guys are getting Eric Stahl, who's like, I love Eric
Oh,
Stahl.
yeah.
I've always liked Eric Stahl.
Stanley Cup champion,
Just telling, but
experience,
like back in the
leadership.
day, yeah. But realistically, he hasn't played a lot in the playoffs though, because he was on Carolina for a while.
Yeah.
Carolina they didn't make the playoffs for a while, but he does have a championship. So the Stanley Cup ring means a lot. What else does he have? Like Eric Stahl, he's a vet, very good vet.
Leadership.
He's still a good player. Remember, like
Yes,
two
yes.
seasons ago, he had
He
that
had
40
40 goals in
Yeah.
Minnesota. I mean,
For
not
sure.
every team could say I have Eric Stahl as my fourth line center.
Yeah.
Montreal Canadiens have that luxury. But I don't know.
Imagine saying you have
I
Eric
like
Stahl
this
and Corey
trade, but
Perry. You got
I
Eric
just-
Stahl and Corey Perry.
Yeah,
On
I
the
just
like,
think this is going to
landscape.
be it for Bergeron. I mean, they have no cap space right now.
Mhm.
They still have to try and figure out a way to fit Cole Caulfield's contract under the cap. By the way, go check out John Eamon's recent post on the Hot Sauce
Okay.
website, basically talking about the Eric Stahl trade and the Cole Caulfield sign and how they're all going to try and manage those salaries under the cap. A lot of math involved. I can't really explain it, but basically the Montreal Canadiens don't have enough money right now to make a trade. And naive Bergevin, he's going to be naive. He's not. He's going to
Yeah.
use that as an excuse. He's been using that as an excuse. But then
Okay.
again, Marc Bergevin always says he's not going to make a trade, and then again, he's always one of the most busiest GMs in the National Hockey League come trade deadline. Is he done? I don't know.
What do you think about that Byron? Didn't they try to put him on waivers or something? He
No, they already
cleared
put
waivers?
Byron on waivers early in the
Yeah.
season, but he
Okay,
cleared
yeah.
waivers. But he has a $3.25 million contract, something like that. He could move Paul Byron for a defenseman, or basically if he wants to move Paul Byron to clear a cap, he can move him to a team like Chicago or even Buffalo if they have the money now, because Taylor Hall is probably going to get traded. They're going to have the money to take bad contracts. There's going to be teams out there that are going to take bad contracts to try and help teams cap. There is no cap space in the playoffs. No cap space in the playoffs. Ben Sherratt is on LTIR, I think. I'd like to believe so.
Okay.
So his cap doesn't go against the team. I don't know if he's on LTIR. But if he was, could Marc Bergevin make a trade for a defenseman, sit Ben Sherratt the rest of the season, and then he comes back for playoffs when he's healthy? I don't know. Because, even with Eric Stahl, you got to play the Edmonton Oilers still a lot. Got to play the Toronto Maple Leafs. You have to make the playoffs. Does this solve our main issue? No. Does it make the team better? Yes. Does it make a team better enough to be, to put them over the edge of other teams in the North? I don't know. Does it put them over the Jets? Does it put them over the Oilers? The Maple Leafs are all playing really good. They got to still play. You got the Canucks and Calgary Flames. Who knows what they're going to do at trade deadline, because, they don't want to miss the playoffs. So I like the trade, but then again, like I said, I think Marc Bergevin is going to use this as I did my job. I did my job at trade deadline. I got Eric Stahl. Nobody's going to be asking me about a D-man.
Fair. But if you look at the team on paper, this team is growing. Like, it's such a good team, for sure.
But we also said this at the beginning of the season too.
Yeah.
And they kind of just been up and down.
But that's the Montreal Canadiens.
This is the most bipolar, most bipolar hockey team. In the NHL, in my opinion, right? They start the season hot, and then they hit a wall, and they can't figure it out. So we'll just have to see. There's still questions with Shea Weber's play, the up and down play of Nick Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, like some guys, Tatar, Dano. this team's got to get going, man, because they got to go on a run here and solidify a playoff spot. They have the least games played in the North Division still, but they got to win games here. They got to go on a run and win games.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see what comes of the April 12th deadline. Speaking of the April 12th deadline, let's look as the NHL trade deadline, Eric, is looming quickly. Teams will be looking to bolster their rosters for a playoff run. We did this for the NBA, Eric. Let's do this again for the NHL trade deadline. I have a list of players I think are most likely going to be traded.
Okay.
You might not have a list. I don't know.
I know you're gonna pull this on me. What? I know we have to.
You know what? Okay, people listening, this is the best thing ever, right? Because I come up with these topics the day before, generally speaking, right?
Yeah.
And then I always tell Eric, do your research, prepare yourself. There's been some days where, we do our research 10 minutes before we record or something, but I just love Eric's consistency of showing up with no list of trade deadline stuff. So we'll just have to try and work with it, right? Go on our tails.
No, I have a list. I have a list.
You have a
Don't worry
list?
about it. It's in my head. It's always like that. Trust. Okay, so what's your list?
Yeah, honestly, first on my list is Taylor Hall.
Okay. Yeah,
okay. Fair. Taylor Hall, left wing, 29. He's played 30 games. He has only 2 goals, and he has 16 points, and he has an $8. I wish $8 million cap hit. Eric, Buffalo Sabres, dumpster fire. Yeah. They have him on a 1-year deal. There's no freaking chance Taylor Hall's re-signing with the Buffalo Sabres. So there's most likely scenario is that he will be traded. I think he will be traded. What do you think? You think that's plausible?
He's on a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
I think a playoff team, if you're looking at him, he's very cheap for Taylor Hall. So I think there's a very good chance he can be traded. His contract, it's not a bad, like, it wouldn't be too hard to trade the contract, but it's also a 1-year deal, so it's tough,
Yeah, I mean, it's a rental. How many teams have $8 million in cap space?
But they're gonna have to retain some cap for sure. I feel like Buffalo would have to.
Or most likely a roster player gets traded, right? With a high cap, but obviously a first round pick to accompany that, an elite prospect maybe, and then a roster player, probably the trade package for Taylor Hall. Eric, second on my list from the Nashville Predators, Matthias Eckham. The reason he's not first, like he is on TSN's trade bait list for me, is because he has 1 year left on his contract after this season. Okay. So it expires in 2021, 2022. Right now, the asking price for Matthias Eckham is high. It's a first round pick, elite prospect, and a third asset, whichever that is. Obviously being because Nashville, in their head, they're thinking, hey, I'm going to trade Matthias Eckham because the team's going to acquire him and have him for 2 playoff runs, this year and next year. That's why his asking price is so high. But
exactly,
could the Nashville Predators simply go out and say, hey, listen, we can wait another year to trade this guy because next season he's going to be on the trade bait list again? Maybe. I still think he's going to get traded, but, there's still a chance the Nashville Predators say, whoa. If teams aren't going to be willing to come to our price of a first-round pick, elite prospect, and whatever third asset, then, hey, I'm just going to wait till next year then, or this summer, basically,
Exactly.
That's why I have him second on my list. Left-handed defenseman. There's a lot of teams looking to add D. I know there's teams in the North Division looking to add D. Montreal, Winnipeg, even Toronto. That's what they're saying, but they're full of crap, so Winnipeg, Montreal, or
Eckham's always been very underrated, though. He's always been very underrated.
I call him the Walmart version of Roman Josi.
Fair, very fair.
Right? Plays the same way. He can go up the neutral zone, fourth forward, move the play, but he doesn't put up the same numbers. But he's still good on the penalty kill. Great. He's good on the power play, gets power play minutes. Just a great top 4 defenseman in all, and that could be on his way out. So we'll have to look for that till April 12th. But third on my list, I have Mikhail Grandlund from the Nashville Predators.
Oh, okay.
29 years old. He's played 29 games. He has 12 points, 5 goals. He has a $3.75 million cap hit. Obviously, Eric, centers are highly touted at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
The Leafs have been rumored that Mikhail Grandlund is their rumored, target to acquire for the trade deadline. Okay. Obviously, Toronto, what's his name in what's the guy's name? The pubescent GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh,
My God, he's super young. I forget his name. Why am I blanking on his name?
uh, I
Oh
was
my
gonna say
God.
Shanahan, but
No, it's oh whatever. I'm gonna actually Google it. I don't
but
know what I
yeah,
just Googled. But him, yeah. They're looking at Kyle Dubas and Dubas we
Call
trust. Yeah,
Dubas, yeah, bro. How we
I don't
forget
know.
that?
Whatever. Guy
That's
looks like
tough.
he's
No, but he's
20.
very young. I think he's under 40. So yeah,
Yeah, he's okay to part ways with his top prospect in Toronto. He has openly said that. So
okay.
to bolster the chances of the Toronto Maple Leafs, obviously we know first round exits can make it out of the
Yeah.
first round with Matthews, Marner, Tavares. So maybe they're trying to put that to bed. They acquired Mikhail Grandlund to center their line. Maybe a guy like Alex Kerfoot on the other end of that trade, probably most likely.
Yeah.
So at least a team that seems to be on the cap restrictions, who seem to be out of no money, will be looking to add a center with a basically a $4 million cap hit to their
But now
team.
you think about it, they should have low key kept Nazem Kadri. Now we
They
look
should
back
have
on the
low key
trade.
not signed John Tavares. That's what they low key should
Okay,
have done.
fair.
$11 million to one player when they could have signed a D or
That's so
another
fair.
player.
Yeah.
That's why that's why I like to think what's his face left. Not Shanahan, Lou Lamoriello,
Yeah.
because I think he left because he's the type of guy that doesn't give out big contracts
Okay.
when as a GM. So he was basically like, yeah, I'm not going to re-sign. I'm not going to sign John Tavares for $11 million.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do. I'm going to stick it with Nazem Kadri, go sign a D or something. And then probably Shanahan wasn't on board with that or something. So they said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, listen, trying to go with someone else. Yeah, when your cap is up in 3 players, it's kind of hard to build a team around
Yeah,
them.
for
But
sure.
the Leafs are doing pretty well right now. But when it comes to a playoff built team, are they
Yeah.
that playoff built team? We
Yeah.
don't know yet. Uh, I don't think they are. I still think they're that
Fair.
first round exit joke of a team they are. I really do.
Okay.
I think this is the same team. Yeah, they added TJ Brody on defense, but no,
Doesn't mean much.
that's still the
Yeah.
same team. Next on my list from Buffalo, I got Brandon Montour. Obviously,
Okay.
Buffalo, Eric, they should be heading into their second rebuild, and they should
Mhm.
be letting go of most of their players.
Exactly.
Brandon Montour, he's 14 or 15th on TSN's trade bait. Right-hand defenseman, he's 26. He's played 28 games. He has 1 goal, 8 assists or 8 points, $3.85 million cap hit.
Yeah.
A right-handed defenseman, Eric. A lot of teams look for a right-handed defenseman. Brandon Montour, young defenseman who could potentially be on his way out from Buffalo. Basically, if he was on any other team, I think he'd be okay because he's a young defenseman that teams like. He was traded for a first-round pick. Buffalo acquired him for a first-round pick from Anaheim. But now Buffalo, most likely heading in their second rebuild, could be looking to trade that guy. Not
Sure.
much to say about that. Another underrated, underlooked player from the Anaheim Ducks, Ricard Raquel. Eric,
Okay.
obviously a 30-goal scorer.
Mm.
Ricard Raquel, where is he? Yeah,
But he's
he's
not the
12th
same
on
anymore,
TSN.
though. He's not the same Raquel, though.
Yeah,
But he's
well,
still
I
good.
I like to think if he was traded to a contender team that he would be a
Okay.
great
For sure.
secondary
Yeah.
or top. He would definitely be a top 6 forward that could accompany that team's stars or whatever. Ricardo Raquel, right wing Anaheim. He's 27. He's playing 33 games. He has 6 goals, 21 assists or 21 points for a $3.79 million contract. He also has
Not
one
bad.
year after this, like Matthias Eckham. I don't know. Have there been any news on the trade package that it goes with Ricardo Raquel? Probably a first round pick, probably like a nice touted prospect. I'd like to think he scored 30 goals before. But yeah, he could be a sneaky good player on any contending team, Eric, who can help with secondary scoring. I like to think so.
For sure. Yeah.
I don't know. Playing in Anaheim kind of dampers his minutes or his offensive game. So maybe in a contender team could do pretty much well. I think so. Don't you think so?
For sure. Raquel, bro. That's my guy. I've
Okay,
always
that's
liked
your guy.
Raquel.
You
Especially in
love Ricardo.
fantasy. That's my guy.
Oh yeah, that's your
For
guy.
sure. Yeah.
Um,
How
next
long
I
is
have
this
Ryan
list?
Dzingel.
Wait, how
I
long
have
is
a
this
few
list?
players. I don't know, a few
Okay.
players. Actually, no, Ryan
Yeah,
Dzingel is
I've,
actually my last.
okay, bet.
But there's so many players. But Ryan Dzingel from the Ottawa Senators, basically, I'm thinking Pierre Dorion acquired him to basically flip him at the trade deadline, right?
The second
Ottawa's
time,
not.
huh?
Well, Ottawa's not making the playoffs. That's
Yeah.
what I thought when they traded for him. I'm like, they're not going to keep this guy around. Probably trade him again for a few
Mm.
picks or something. So that could be a guy who's looked on its way out. But if you're looking for a goaltender as well, your boy Jonathan Bernier from the Detroit
Okay,
Red Wings,
for sure.
having a nice season playing on Detroit, .918 save percentage, $3 million contract. Him and who else could be on his way out? Chris Drieger from the Florida Panthers. He's a
Oh yeah.
restricted free agent. He's playing backup right now for them. They have Bobrovsky for a long time signed, so he could be on his way out. Devin Dubnyk, like
Mm-hmm.
having a bad season, but he could be on his way out. So
Sure.
a lot of teams looking for a goaltender. There's some guys
Yeah.
available, but yeah, trade deadline always exciting in hockey,
You want to
especially as
hear my
hockey
list now?
fans.
You want
Yeah,
to hear
sure.
my
I'd
list?
love to hear this.
Okay, so just to add on the goalies.
Google, TSN,
Yo,
TradeBaitlist.com.
what are you talking about? I ain't Google. I
Yeah,
ain't
yeah,
Google
yeah,
anything.
yeah. Who's on your list?
Okay, so I have and basically any of the Carolina goalies, basically. So I think most likely James Reimer that he's gonna get traded. They have
Because
a
they have
lot of
that
goal.
other guy, That Alex Nenda
Yeah, exactly.
guy.
Nedrovich or whatever.
I can't pronounce
So
it.
yeah, I think Reimer might get traded. Who else do I have? I have Mike Hoffman. They healthy scratch Mike
Healthy
Hoffman.
scratch from the St. Louis Blues. Yeah, 1 year
How
deal
how
too.
crazy is that? A lot of people
Yeah,
think maybe you can maybe trade Mike Hoffman, Taylor Hall. You can get something going there, like add something with Mike Hoffman maybe.
yeah. If you're not looking for Taylor Hall and secondary sneaky scorer like Taylor Hall, Mike Hoffman,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
Makes less money.
Um, yeah. You know who else I have? I have Anthony Duclair, who always gets
Florida
traded during trade.
Panthers. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, from the Florida
he's
Panthers.
good, and that's all. That's all I got in my head.
Yeah, there's so many players on this
There's so many.
list
Yeah,
that don't get mentioned, but that could be on their way out. Mark Stahl is a defenseman.
yeah.
Like we said, Alex Griffith, Jake DeBrusk has been rumored to be on his way out
Ooh,
too.
yeah.
Who knows what the Tony DeAngelo situation in New York, if
Oh,
he gets moved at the deadline or if that's a summer kind of deal. Tanner Pearson from the Vancouver Canucks, Alex Goligoski from Arizona. Arizona 6 points out of a playoff spot. They could be looking to sell. Nick Foligno, Columbus. They're not playing too
mhm.
great. David Savard, also from Columbus, right-handed defenseman. Yeah, just a lot of players not being mentioned right now that could very much be on their way out
Mhm.
coming April 12th. Hopefully one of them's Paul Byron. I don't know yet. But we'll just have to see come April 12th, Eric, as that does it for this week's episode of Chtib and Zhang Show. I know we've
Yeah.
always been teasing this special guest, Eric. It's like every week we're playing, curtain 3 is our guest, but we keep taking curtain 2 or curtain 1.
Yeah.
It's just a time thing, a schedule thing, but we'll be looking to get that sorted out this week. If it happens or not for next week's episode.
Yeah.
Not going to say who the guest is, Eric. Got to keep that hidden as always. Potentially look for that next week. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to, confirm anything, but maybe,
Yeah.
maybe not. Don't get too excited. Whatever. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Chtib and Zhang Show, where we talk about UFC, the NBA trade deadline, Eric Stahl, and of course the NHL trade deadline. We'll be back next week again, as always. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys. Thanks for listening
Yeah.
on Spotify. Thanks for watching on YouTube. We'll see you guys next week. Peace. See ya.
Peace out.